I used to work the night shift at a small roadside motel just off I-40 in North Carolina. It was one of those older, L-shaped places. Peeling paint, flickering neon sign, the smell of stale cigarettes and bleach soaked into every surface. My job was mostly quiet. After midnight, I'd sit behind the counter, sip bad coffee, and watch the cameras. People came and went, mostly truckers or couples trying not to be noticed. One Thursday, around 2 a.m., a man walked in. He didn't say much. Tall, thin, dressed in a faded gray jacket that hung on him like wet paper. He had no luggage, not even a backpack. Just a single, wrinkled $20 bill and a driver's license he pushed across the counter without a word. Name was Joseph Keller. He asked for room 104 specifically. That was strange because I hadn't told him what rooms were available yet. But I checked the system, and sure enough, 104 was empty. I handed him the key card, and he took it without saying a word. Didn't even glance at me, just turned and walked down the hall. I thought about calling the manager, maybe to check if Keller was blacklisted or something, but figured I'd just keep an eye on the cameras. Around 3:15 a.m., I noticed something odd. Room 104's door was cracked open. Barely. Just enough to catch my eye on the grainy security feed. I zoomed in. Couldn't see much. Just the edge of the door, unmoving. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. I finally got up, walked down the hall, and stood in front of 104. The hallway smelled like mildew and cheap air freshener. I knocked lightly. No answer. I pushed the door a little. It swung open, slowly, silently. Inside, the lights were off. The bed was made. The room was empty. No one there. The bathroom door was open too. No sign of Joseph Keller. No bag, no wallet, nothing. Like he had never checked in. I went back to the desk, checked the security footage again. He never left the room. I rewound the footage, watched him go in. The door closed behind him. And after that, nothing. Not a single frame showing him leaving. Not through the hallway, not through the window. Those are sealed shut in that room, painted shut years ago. But he was gone. I called the manager. He showed up half an hour later, bleary-eyed and irritated. We searched the room together, every inch. Nothing. It was like Keller had evaporated. The next day I ran his license through the guest system. Nothing. No record of it. Not even in the recent history. It was like he'd never checked in at all. I thought about forgetting it. I really did. But 2 nights later, around the same time, 2:03 a.m., a different man came in. Young, early 30s maybe, looked exhausted. Asked if we had a room. Before I could respond, he said, "Can I get 104? That's when the dread hit me. Heavy and sudden, like ice water in my veins. I told him 104 was out of service. He nodded like he understood, didn't ask why. He left without booking anything. The manager took 104 off the system after that. Just to be safe, he said. But every few weeks, always after 2 a.m., someone would show up and ask for 104. Sometimes they'd leave when I said it was unavailable. Sometimes, they'd stay. Pick another room. And I'd never see them check out. I'd just find the room empty in the morning, sheets untouched, no sign anyone had ever been there. We stopped mentioning it to each other, the night shift workers. We just learned to stop asking questions. A month before I quit, I worked with a new guy, Alex. Young, green, still asking too many questions. One night, I came in for my shift and he was pale, shaking. He didn't say much. Just left early. Later, I found out he gave a man 104, and that man was Joseph Keller. He looked the same jacket, same blank expression. But when Alex ran the ID again in the system, it showed a check-in from 6 years ago. Same room, same time, and the same checkout. Date, never. I found the ad on Craigslist. Roommate wanted. $600 a month. Utilities included. Private room. Quiet area. No pets. It sounded like a dream. I had just moved to Portland. Broke and desperate. The photos showed a clean 2-bedroom house on a tree-lined street, not far from the bus line. White siding, small porch, tidy lawn. Nothing fancy, but normal. Normal was what I needed. The guy's name was Tyler. He was in his late 20s, looked like someone who listened to old vinyl records, and drank pour-over coffee. Clean-shaven, polite. He answered my message within an hour and invited me to come by that evening. When I showed up, the house looked just like the photos. Quiet street, no neighbors out. It was fall, and the leaves had started turning, orange and brittle on the sidewalk. Tyler met me at the door. He smiled, held it open, and gestured me inside. The place was spotless. Seriously, not just tidy. Spotless. No clutter, no smell, no dust. His living room had one couch, one coffee table, and a small bookshelf, all lined up perfectly like a furniture catalog. The kitchen had nothing on the counters, not a single dish in the sink. Even the floor felt weirdly polished. "Sorry it's so empty," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. "I'm kind of minimalist." I told him I didn't mind. The truth was, I didn't have much stuff anyway, just a suitcase and a laptop. I was still waiting on a paycheck from my new job, and I'd been sleeping in a hostel. He showed me the room. Blank white walls, no decorations, just a twin bed, a dresser, and a small desk. There was a closet with sliding doors, but it was empty. No hangers, no old junk. "You'd be the first roommate I've had in years," he said. "I like things quiet. I work from home, so I'm around a lot." He paused like he was waiting for me to say something. I just nodded. Then he smiled. "Cool. If you want it, it's yours." I moved in the next morning. The first week was fine. Nothing bad, just off. Tyler didn't talk much. He worked in some kind of tech support job, locked in his room most of the day with headphones on. We crossed paths maybe twice a day, once in the morning, once at night. Always the same routine. He'd nod, ask, "How's work?" then disappear. The fridge was nearly empty except for a few containers of vegetables, all perfectly labeled. He had no snacks, no junk food. Just green tea and filtered water. Every time I tried to cook something, he'd quietly show up behind me and say something like, "Use the fan. Grease smells tend to linger." Or, "Can you wipe down the stove when you're done?" I mean, fair enough. But it felt more like instructions than requests. By week 2, I noticed things, small things. My toothbrush was wet one night and I hadn't used it. My drawer was open. An inch. I always shut it fully. A sock I swore was on the floor was neatly folded on my bed. I started locking my bedroom door when I left for work. Just in case. I didn't want to be paranoid, but it felt like someone was moving my things. Then one night, I woke up around 2 a.m. I heard footsteps outside my door. Slow. Pacing. Back and forth. I froze. The sound stopped. Then came a gentle tap. Like a single knuckle, barely brushing the door. I sat up, heart pounding. "Tyler?" No answer. I got out of bed and opened the door. The hallway was empty. The next morning, he was making toast like nothing happened. I almost asked him about it, but something in his eyes made me stop. He smiled. "Sleep okay?" I just nodded. Few days later, I came home early from work. Around 4 p.m. The front door was unlocked. When I stepped inside, the house was dead silent. I set my bag down and walked toward my room. That's when I heard the click from inside my bedroom. My door was locked from the inside. I stood there, frozen. Every hair on my body went cold. Then the door opened. Tyler stood there, smiling casually like he'd just found a lost sock. "Oh, hey," he said. "Sorry. Your alarm clock was going off. I figured I'd turn it off before it annoyed the neighbors. The clock wasn't plugged in, and I'd locked the door before I left." I didn't say anything. I just went into my room, closed the door, and stared at my stuff. It looked untouched. But it wasn't. Not really. Everything was just a little too straight. Like someone had studied where I kept everything and tried to recreate it. But not quite right. That night, I slept with a knife under my pillow. The next morning, Tyler knocked on my door. He had a cup of tea in his hand. "I made you some," he said. I took it, thanked him, and shut the door. I didn't drink it. That night, I packed what little I had and left while he was asleep. I found a cheap room on the other side of town. Moved in with a stranger who had 4 cats and too many pizza boxes, but I didn't care. I never went back. A week later, Tyler texted me. "You left in a hurry. Forgot your socks. I folded them for you. Want to come get them?" I blocked him. Then, last month, 3 months after I left, I was scrolling through Craigslist again, looking for a bike, and there it was. Roommate, wanted. 600 month, utilities included. Private room, quiet area, no pets. Same wording. Same photo of the house, different name. Trevor. But the room, still completely empty. The closet too, like no one ever lived there. Like no one ever stayed long. I was driving through West Texas on my way back to Arizona. It was a boring 8-hour haul along long stretches of nothing. Just dirt, fences, and the occasional dying gas station. I'd left my sister's place late, later than I should have, and by the time the sun went down, I was still 3 hours from home. I'm not great at night driving. My vision's fine, but something about the darkness makes me edgy. Like the road could go on forever, and I'd never know if I missed a turn. I'd been chugging gas station coffee for hours, but my legs were cramping and my eyes were starting to blur. That's when I saw the sign. Rest area. 1 mile. It wasn't one of those big, well-lit plazas. Just a simple rest stop off a quiet stretch of highway. I figured I'd pull over, stretch, splash some water on my face. Maybe even close my eyes for 20 minutes. I wasn't in a rush. I took the exit and pulled into a near-empty lot. There were 2 other cars. One was a dusty, old SUV with no plates parked way in the corner. The other was a white sedan parked near the bathrooms. The overhead lights were dim, and the whole place had this weird yellowish glow, like a sick hospital hallway. I parked near the center, under a light that was flickering just enough to be annoying. The air was still. Too still. No wind, no bugs, no sound except the cooling tick of my engine. It felt like the world had paused. I got out and stretched. My back cracked like dry twigs. Then I walked toward the bathroom building. It was one of those old cinder-block structures. Men's on one side, women's on the other, and a busted vending machine between them. As I got closer, I saw someone standing just inside the men's doorway. Not walking out, not going in, just standing, silhouetted in the dim light. Perfectly still. At first, I thought he might be waiting for someone, but he wasn't facing out toward the parking lot. He was turned slightly, like he was listening to something inside. I slowed down. "Hey," I said, cautious. The man didn't move, didn't look at me, just kept standing there. I hesitated. then turned and went into the women's side. It was empty, silent, and smelled like bleach and metal. I washed my hands, splashed cold water on my face, and tried to shake the unease, crawling up my back. When I came out, the man was gone. I scanned the lot. The SUV was still in the corner, unchanged. The white sedan now had its headlights on, even though the engine wasn't running. I could see movement inside. Someone sitting in the driver's seat. Maybe 2 people. I walked back to my car faster than I wanted to. Locked the doors. Took a deep breath. I sat there for a minute, debating whether to just hit the road. Then I noticed something in the rearview mirror. A shape standing at the edge of the trees behind the rest stop. It looked like the same guy from earlier. Tall, maybe 6 foot. Wearing a hoodie, hands at his sides. Just watching. I turned around to get a better look. He was gone. I blinked. My heart was racing now, and I couldn't explain why. Maybe it was the caffeine, the lack of sleep, the creepy lighting. Maybe I was just being paranoid. But I locked my car again, just to be sure. I reached over to the passenger seat to grab my phone, thinking I'd scroll a bit and chill before driving. And that's when I noticed it. My glove box was open, wide open. I hadn't touched it. I never open it. My registration, insurance, maps, everything was scattered on the floor like someone had been digging through it. I froze. My windows were shut. My doors had been locked. I looked around wildly. No broken glass. No signs of forced entry. Then I saw the sedan again. Its headlights were still on. And now the trunk was open, wide open. No one was inside the car anymore. Just the trunk. Empty. Gaping. I turned on my engine. My fingers were shaking as I put it in reverse. As I backed up, my headlights caught something in the trees. A person. Running. Fast. But not toward the road. Not toward the cars. Just deeper into the woods. I didn't wait to see where they were. Going. I peeled out of the lot, tires kicking up dust. I didn't slow down until I hit the main road and was a mile away, heart hammering so hard it hurt. I made it home 2 hours later, barely breathing until I pulled into my apartment lot. Didn't call the cops. What would I even say? There was a guy, and my glove box was open? But that wasn't the end of it. 3 days later, I went down to my car to head to work. There was a folded piece of paper tucked under my windshield wiper. No envelope. Just a note. 1 line, handwritten in shaky block letters. "You're lucky you locked the doors." In 2019, I took a job in Chicago that required me to relocate on short notice. My lease in Minneapolis still had 5 months left, and I couldn't afford to eat the cost. So, like a lot of people do, I posted the apartment on a sublet group on Facebook. It was a decent place. 1 bedroom, small kitchen, 3rd floor of an old brick building. Nothing fancy, but clean, quiet, and in a safe neighborhood. I got a message the same night I posted. His name was Owen, mid-30s. Said he'd just moved to the city and needed a place immediately. He was polite, professional, and sent over a copy of his ID, a work reference, and 2 months' rent up front. Everything checked out. We signed the sublet agreement electronically, and I mailed him the key. I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. 2 weeks after I started settling into my new place in Chicago, I got a call from my old downstairs neighbor, Jenna. She sounded nervous. "Hey, sorry to bother you," she said. "I didn't know if I should call, but your subletter's a little weird." I asked what she meant. "He doesn't talk, like at all, and I think he's watching people." That got my attention. She explained that a few times when she left for work in the morning, she saw Owen standing at the top of the stairs, just standing there, not moving, not saying anything. Once he was barefoot in a hoodie, staring at her like he didn't recognize her. "He gives me a bad feeling," she said. "Like he's not right." I told her I'd check in with him. Messaged Owen that evening. Just a casual, "Hey, how's everything going with the apartment?" kind of thing. He replied within minutes. "All good. Quiet. Thanks." Short, polite, nothing off. I let it go. But over the next month, I kept hearing things. Jenna messaged again. So did another neighbor, Marco, who lived across the hall. He said Owen never made noise, never brought in groceries, never turned on lights. His windows were always dark, even at night. But the worst thing? Someone had started leaving notes on doors in the building. Small, torn pieces of paper, taped, at eye level. Each one had a single sentence, written in tiny, perfect handwriting. Marco sent me a picture of one. "I hear you crying. Please stop." Another one, a week later. "She doesn't love you anymore." No one saw who left them. The landlord got involved, but couldn't do anything without proof. Then Jenna messaged again. This time she was furious. She'd come home late from a date and found a note stuck to her bedroom window from the outside. "You smiled at him. I saw it." That was enough for her. She called the landlord and demanded they talk to Owen. But when they knocked on the door, no one answered. They tried for 2 days. No response. So finally, the landlord used their key and went inside. The apartment was weirdly empty. Not messy, not trashed, just sparse, as if no one really lived there. A mattress on the floor. One chair. No dishes in the cabinets. Nothing in the fridge. And the walls? Covered in writing. Dozens, maybe hundreds, of small notes, taped in perfect rows. Some just had words. Others were phrases. Some were complete nonsense. They always look. Don't sleep until she does. The key is in the noise. Smiling is lying. Every square foot of wall space was covered. Even the closet doors. The landlord took photos. Told me Owen had until the end of the week to move out or he'd be forcibly evicted. That night, I messaged Owen again. This time, no answer. 2 days passed. Then I got an email from my old Gmail account, the one I hadn't used in years. It was forwarded to my new inbox automatically. The sender was Owen.liveshare, and the subject line was blank. Just one sentence in the body. It was never your apartment. I didn't reply. I contacted the landlord and offered to cover the cost of changing the locks if he could get Owen out immediately. He said Owen disappeared that night. Left behind the mattress, the chair, and all the notes. No word, no goodbye. I figured that was the end of it. But about a month later, I started hearing noises in my new apartment in Chicago. Not voices, just soft, scraping sounds. Like paper being dragged across a wall. Always late at night. Always from the other side of my bedroom wall. I thought it was the neighbors at first, but I live on the top floor, corner unit. That wall doesn't connect to anything but the roof. Then came the notes. At first, I thought I was imagining them. A scrap of paper on my nightstand I didn't remember putting there. Then one inside my coat pocket. Then one in my locked bathroom drawer. Same handwriting. Same weird messages. She still watches you. Don't answer the knock. Remember who was there first. I tried to tell myself it was some elaborate prank. Some residual trauma from dealing with Owen. But last week, I got home late. From work, and taped to my door, inside my apartment, was the note that finally broke me. I like this place more than you ever did. I haven't slept at home since. Last summer, I house sat for a couple I barely knew. It was supposed to be a simple gig. 5 days, feed the cat, water a few plants, bring in the mail. Easy money. Their names were Mark and Lisa. I'd met them once through a friend of a friend thing, and they mentioned they were going to Vermont for a wedding and needed someone to watch their place. When they posted the request on Facebook, I replied right away. They lived in a quiet neighborhood about 20 minutes from me. Old houses, big trees, no streetlights. The kind of place where everyone's lawn is too neat and all the mailboxes match. I didn't mind. I thought the quiet would be nice. The first time I saw the house, I remember thinking it felt hollow, like a model home someone had just moved into and hadn't made theirs yet. Everything was very white. White walls, white curtains, pale wood floors. Minimal decorations, no clutter. It didn't feel lived in. Mark and Lisa showed me the basics before they left. Where the cat food was, how to reset the router, which plants needed misting. The cat's name was Felix, a nervous gray tabby who mostly stayed under the bed. They said he might not come out much. That was fine. They gave me a guest key, the alarm code, and a list of emergency contacts that included their next-door neighbors, the Myers. I stayed the first night without anything strange happening. The silence was thick, but I slept okay. Felix never showed himself. It was the second night that things started to feel wrong. I'd just finished eating and was watching TV when I heard something from upstairs. A quick thud, like something heavy had dropped. I muted the TV and listened. Silence. I went up to check, slowly. The hallway was dark, so I turned on the light. Nothing. All the doors were still closed. I checked the bedroom where Felix usually hid. The cat was under the bed, his eyes glowing in the light, his body low and tense. Probably knocked something over, I mumbled, even though I hadn't seen anything out of place. Still, it left a weird feeling in my chest, like being watched. I told myself I was just on edge because it wasn't my house. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing soft, slow creaks, like footsteps in the hallway. But every time I opened the door to look, it was empty. By morning, I convinced myself the house was just old and settling. Or maybe the AC system was weird. But I kept noticing tiny things that didn't sit right. Like a framed photo in the hallway that was slightly crooked when I know I hadn't touched it. Or a chair that wasn't quite in the same position in the dining room. Or the back porch light, which I swear I hadn't turned on, glowing softly when I came downstairs. On the fourth day, I came back from running errands and found the front door unlocked. I froze. I always lock doors, especially when I'm alone. I stood there for a full minute, heart pounding, staring at the door before I stepped inside. Hello? Nothing. No movement, no sound. I checked every room, every closet. Nothing was taken, nothing was broken. But in the bedroom, I found something new. A glass of water, sitting on the nightstand. Perfectly full. Not mine. I hadn't even gone into that bedroom. I called Mark right away. Hey. I don't want to alarm you, I said. But I think someone might have come into the house. There was a pause. Then Mark's voice, too calm. What makes you say that? I told him about the unlocked door and the water glass. He sighed. We've had issues before, he said. Just weird stuff. Doors unlocked, lights left on. Nothing stolen, though. I asked if they had a housekeeper or relative with a key. No one's supposed to be there, he said. Can you just stay until tomorrow? We'll be back in the morning. I didn't want to, I really didn't. But I'd agreed to the full 5 days, and I figured one more night. I could stay up, keep the lights on, maybe even call a friend to come crash. I texted my friend Jess and asked her to stop by later, and she agreed. While I waited, I went to check on Felix. He was gone. Not under the bed. Not in the closet. Not anywhere. I searched the whole house, every room, calling his name, shaking his food. No luck. But then I heard a soft scraping sound from the attic door. The attic was one of those pull-down ladders in the hallway ceiling. I hadn't touched it all week. The string was swaying. Not violently. Just enough to notice. I stood there, staring at it, my mouth dry. I didn't go up. I waited downstairs for Jess, every light on in the house. She showed up around 10 p.m., and I hugged her like I'd been lost at sea. I tried to explain everything, the noises, the door, the glass of water, the attic, but I could tell she thought I was spiraling a bit. She laughed and said, "It's probably just the cat messing with stuff." We both slept downstairs on the couch with the TV on low. In the middle of the night, I woke up to Jess standing in the kitchen. I sat up groggily. "Everything okay?" She turned slowly. I thought I heard someone walking upstairs. We both listened. Nothing now. Then, 3 slow, distinct footsteps across the ceiling. We didn't go up. We didn't speak. We left that night and sat in my car until sunrise. Mark and Lisa returned the next morning. I handed them the keys without going back inside. Mark barely asked how the stay went. Lisa just said, "Hope Felix wasn't too much trouble." I didn't mention that I never found the cat. I never heard from them again. But 2 months later, I saw a new listing on a pet-sitting site for the same address. It was from a different account. No names. But the description was nearly identical, except for one line added at the bottom. "Please ignore sounds from the attic. It's just part of the house settling."